Okay. Hopefully all is working here. Make sure all of my systems are online. It says I have excellent connection, which is excellent. Okay, it looks like, am I getting two different DaVinci channels right now? Because I don't need both. So really, I just want to make sure I'm being heard, the voice obviously, and then of course, what do you call it? DaVinci, the application. You know, that's the most important part. So I think we're going to run with it because it looks like the two things that I need to work are in fact working. This is exciting. OBS had an update, which looks, the UI is improved, you know, pretty slight, but still, it's an improvement. I'm actually getting over being sick. Still a little bit sick. I have a little bit of a cold, I think, so bear with me. But this is just one of those things like I've wanted to be able to do for a long time. Video editing, doing it live like this. Of course, even if no one's watching at this point, even if no one's tuning in or whatever, I want to be able to keep sessions like this on YouTube, on my YouTube, and really lean into that platform as much as possible, because I mean, it just kind of makes sense. Like I'm making content for other people for a living. I might as well be making some for myself as well. You know, it'll just be a continuing investment. That's really the essence of it. I need to move this over here. Is there a way to do that? I want to like rearrange these. Whatever. I'll do it some other time then. The important thing is I've got the mic working and I've got the audio for this working. Okay, so what we are working on today is this kendama edit for the boy Edwin, 365 kendama. This is just kind of a passion project for me, but it's something I do need to get done. I do need to work on and finish, and so I can get to other stuff. But we do have it a good amount of the way there. Really, we just need to kind of finish off the end here. It's a little bit less, doesn't really have anything going on with it yet. There's one more trick that he lands that you can see I haven't even color graded yet at this point. What is this for? OBS. Okay, dope. And view your channel. Does it say I'm live? Okay, sick. Look at that. Cool. Well, so what I want to do here is here at the end is finish this, and a couple of these tricks you can see it's actually also the case here. We filmed this from two different angles so that we could do just more creative stuff with this edit. So Alex was there, and we actually were able to film them both with the same camera, which was super, super exciting. So Alex and I both now have the FX30, and so it's been awesome to be able to get us like some really great, rich, dynamic range and deep color profiles, so that we can really make these colors pop out the way they're supposed to. It's been awesome. And then, you know, obviously getting to film outside, getting to film this kendama stuff that we really enjoy filming anyways. It's just been super fun. So this edit, real quick, I'm going to hit play here in a second, but this edit is for 365 Kendamas, which is the company that Edwin is sponsored by. Our homies based out of Portland, and they just released these new kendamas called the Daisy series. So you can see there's 3 different color profiles, and it's just this cool like daisy design, super sick. And let me just skip ahead to this cut somewhere here. Where is it? Here? No, here. Yeah. There's actually a daisy on the Ken itself too, which is really cool to see. Like, you don't typically see that, especially painted designs. It's usually either things that are engraved in the Ken, or wood burned, or like stickers on the label or whatever. But to see actual design like that on the Ken, that's really cool to see. So yeah, and then it's got this nice white ring around the bevel. So very, very cool design. So we're making a little promo edit for this new design, which just dropped, and it features Edwin and a few of his tricks. So, for these kendama edits, anytime a new kendama drops, like, you want to, of course, show off the kendama and what it looks like and stuff, but really it's also just an opportunity for some cool tricks to be landed. And in my case, because I'm not the one who can land the cool tricks, to do some cool editing, to make something cool and pleasant to watch. And it really gives me a chance to flex my creative muscles in a way. Like, kendama edits are one of those kind of like music videos where you can kind of get away with doing a lot of different stuff as long as you're showing off the tricks and the kendamas. Those are really the only 2 rules. So let's see how this is looking so far.
God dang.
All right, so I'm going to pause it there. Yeah, so that's kind of how it's looking so far. Like, watching this back now again, I worked on this a little bit yesterday, so coming back to it today, there's definitely like a few little minor things I would like to maybe tweak or maybe experiment with or something. Yeah, I think overall I've got like the general picture of how I want it to look, and you probably got a sense watching it, like sort of the mood and vibe I'm going for. So what have we done so far? Just like a quick recap. Not really a ton as far as like special effects or graphics or anything. I mean, I like to think this is, looking pretty good so far. But the minor things I'll point out, I wanted to do just kind of this fun little animated title. I wanted this edit to kind of have some energy and also have a little bit of a psychedelic vibe. That was something that Edwin kind of mentioned as we were thinking about this edit and shooting it and stuff. So the other thing is that they mentioned, so first thing I'll address actually is the music, which ties into the psychedelic vibe. This particular song, maybe not super psychedelic, a little bit more funk, a little bit more kind of upbeat or jazzy or lo-fi or whatever you want to call that. It's not super psychedelic. I wasn't able to find anything that fit perfectly. I wanted it to more than anything feel bright too, like just bright and warm and like summer energy vibes. Like, a flower is bright. I kind of wanted it to fit. We filmed this all outside in the sun at the park. It's just a beautiful sunny day. So I kind of wanted it to have that sort of bright thing to it. And And so that's and then we kind of landed on this song just because it's one of those where like anytime you have those drops, dun, 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 da, like that's just great sauce to be able to line up with like landing a trick. It just really accents landing the trick. So I try to look for those kind of songs too that have some of that potential to really like make some edits hit a little bit better. So let me see. So all that said, I started off with this title, very basic animation. I like these kind of things where you like the titles are transparent. I like the idea of having it that way. And I like the idea of like, I don't know. I like this idea of sort of the negative look over the top, where it changes the background of the text, changes the color, and the saturation and everything about the text changes as the background behind it changes. It's just sort of an interesting thing. And I could experiment with this. I could stretch it, pull it, make it bigger, smaller, all that kind of stuff. But this is kind of where I landed for now. Honestly, feeling this out right now, it doesn't feel super balanced. Maybe I'll end up making that presents word a little bit smaller or something like that. That feels a little bit more right, but we'll have to see. And you'll notice there, like I really tried to make the everything just kind of goes with the beat here, and right down to the movements and right down to the like I want it to feel very like motivated, the edit. There's definitely certain times, and I'll talk about this doing some either editing breakdowns or other editing other kinds of videos. Like there's definitely times I think when you don't necessarily want to be cutting right to the beat. In fact, like I'd say honestly, probably most of the time. Well, I guess I won't go that far. It is one of those things like I see it being super overdone, and you don't want your edit to feel too predictable sometimes. That's really the essence of what I'm getting at. In this case, like in my mind anyways, just kind of like a music video, like you want it to have the same sort of flow and energy. Like you want the whole thing to be like one cohesive unit, the pace of the video with the music, with everything. And so that's what you'll kind of see me trying to do as I'm working on this edit today, is like trying to get the energies to match. And sometimes that means putting the cuts right on the beat like that and making certain actions on the screen happen in line with the music. And other times it's like slowing down the footage right when the music slows down, or like transitioning right when there's kind of a transition on the song, little things like that. So so you'll notice right there, I spent a little bit of time. So let me open this so you can kind of see what I did here with the retime curve. So working with these retime curves is really gratifying, really satisfying. It's how you get these speed ramps like that. And if I wanted to, I could make this more gradual rather than sudden, but honestly, you don't really see how sudden it is because it switches from full speed down to, I think this is at about 50% right now. And the reason I went to 50 instead of 40, which is, so this is shot at 60 frames per second, which we can see if we go up to file here, we can see the frame rate. And the reason, and so if I, one way of converting 60 FPS footage is just to go, change it straight to 24. Then you don't have to worry about doing the math as far as what percentage of 60 is 24. For those who don't already know, it's 40%. So if you ever are slowing down your footage by percentage, the lowest you can go is down to 40%. So that would be how you would play back your footage that you shot at 60 frames at 24 frames instead, is slowing it down to 40%. And so the reason I didn't slow it down to 40% here, even though I did here, you can see these two different points, is because I wanted these instant lighthouse flips he's doing here to line up with the music. And actually right there it did. And then those last two, like it just worked out perfectly when I just adjusted the positions of where it sped up and slowed down. And as long as I just did this one little section at 50%, it just lined up perfectly with the music. And you can see where these cuts are like right where these spikes in the beat are. And also where these spike taps are. So you can see the spike tap, or not the spike tap, the instant lighthouse flip makes this little spike in the waveform there. So yeah, it was just a matter of lining all those up and adjusting the speed to get that. But very, very stoked on that. I love this first little trick here. And then it slows down. And so right there for that transition, this is going to be the last step of this edit. But it's going to be going through and doing a little bit of sound design. So I'm not going to do anything, crazy, but a couple things I do want to do are put in a sound bed of like nature. I like just some outdoorsy sound bed sort of feel. I would love to incorporate that into the edit. Just as like a background layer of sound, maybe, to even go behind the music. And then the other thing I'm going to do is put in a few transition sounds, like either some whooshes or something like that. And then right here, I maybe want to do like an old film projector sort of look, like kind of a flapping or just like a high, just like a wisping sort of sound, just like a rapidly, just to add to the energy. And really, I wasn't really sure what I was doing here. I tried out a few different things, but I kind of like this idea of just this sort of like grungy sort of look. And I just put on this radio blur. I didn't really do anything a whole lot with it. You can see it's a little bit disorienting, but and I honestly didn't even put it in any camera shake. This is just me with a super light camera, not really holding it all that well. I also did add a dynamic zoom though. So I just wanted to add some energy to this particular clip here. And because it's kind of a trick, but it's kind of a transition clip at the same time. Like it's kind of B-roll. It's just Edwin sitting down, trying to hit 3 triple J sticks, which is 1, 2. And it's kind of cool because you expect him to hit the third, because like normally I wouldn't keep the clip in there. 1, 2, and then it's like, oh, he's going to hit 3 triple J's sitting down, and then he misses it, and he just has that laugh. I thought it was just a funny little transition clip to put in there. And then we go into this, and then you can hear my voice in there. I'm actually going to bring that down a little bit, and I might bring the pitch down even as well, just to distort it a little bit. I like doing that. You can see here I'm making these cuts to the music as well. And so here, again, not anything super complex, but just wanted to take advantage of having 2 different camera angles, wanted to bring in some energy and, again, kind of lean into that psychedelic sort of feel. So, we got these 2 camera angles, and so I was like, how can I cut between? What's like a creative way to maybe cut between the 2 different ones? And this is kind of just an idea I had where I didn't really do a whole lot other than just I left the B camera angle on the bottom, and then the main camera angle, which is this, where you're just looking at him front and center on top. And instead of making it too jarring, because I do want people to kind of be able to follow the trick, but more than anything, I just want this to be like a pleasurable viewing experience for people. So that's kind of the idea. So instead of doing a hard cut, I did a semi-hard sort of soft cut, where I created a new clip out of this. First thing is I slowed it down. So I start this at full speed, and then right at that beat is when I slow it down. And maybe I could fade this on. I don't know. I could try a couple things, but and right there on that one, I punched in on this lower clip. So you can see I put a cut there, and I kept it a continuation. So this this all the way up until here, this is the same clip. It's just I'm cutting in. I'm either just changing the position, or there's no cut in time is how I should say it. Is how you should think of it. When you see especially these little dotted perforated lines as opposed to these solid lines in a cut, it just means that there's the continuation of time is still there. There's just a difference between the two clips somehow is all that means. So and I just like how this kind of looks, this is not a typical angle. You get to kind of see like the exact same trick being landed from two different perspectives. One where you really are focused on the Ken here, and one where you really get to see his face. And of course I punched in on the bottom clip, both clips, honestly. I punched in a little bit on gradually over time. And so when I watched this back just now, like I did have the thought, like I would like to add some kind of energy to this. Like I think it needs a little something maybe. Okay, let me try to bring up the volume on this. This is the clip that naturally, this is the audio that naturally went under this. So I want to see. Okay, so I didn't slow it down. So this is actually going to be misaligned. So this audio actually won't work. As I was watching it, I was like, I think maybe all I need is actually just some audio to go underneath. Some dialogue, just something to flavor it up a little bit. Plus, I think these close-ups really help, like zoom in on his hand, like what he's actually doing, because like the trick itself is what looks cool. Like it's a very handsy trick. It's a very flowy trick, and so you actually, I think, want to be a little bit more zoomed in on what he's actually doing here. Okay, yeah, so I'm gonna have to get rid of that because this is this is actually distracting. So what I'd like to do, honestly, is perhaps come into here, media pool, maybe try to find some audio from like one of these clips. Like even if the audio of the Ken doesn't match perfect, if it's maybe just some audio of.
Wish I was recording that whole full episode. Wish I was.
Just some like audio like that of Edwin just talking, or. Let's scrub through here, see if I hear anything.
Right now, he would have won. But I already landed it.
Okay, I'm glad I stumbled upon this. So this is like just kind of a funny moment in the film sesh here with Edwin and Alex, because this trick, this trick in the preview panel that I'm watching, is actually the exact same trick as down here. This is just earlier in the filming. But the funny thing was, like, filming kendama is a crazy thing in the world of video, I'll say, because it's unlike really filming anything else, where you can, typically when you're set out to film something, you try a few things, but more or less after like 10 minutes, maybe 15 of you in a camera, you're like, okay, I think I got the shot that I need to make the video I want, right? With this, with kendama, if you want to film something, if you want to film kendama at that same level as you would other documentary or music video or any other type of video project, it's not quite like you are sitting there filming until they land the trick, which can, yeah, it's you never really know how long it can take. Luckily, with someone like Edwin, we're so used to filming him, we kind of get a good sense. I mean, he's pretty much going to land everything he sets out to do. There are a few exceptions where there's just something that's beyond his reach at that given day. But for the most part, I mean, we're pretty confident he's going to land the tricks he's going to hit, or he sets out to hit. He'll think of a line, usually takes him just a couple of minutes. Oh, it'd be cool to do this. Maybe we'll give him some feedback like, oh, you should do this, this, this. But typically he lands tricks within like 20 minutes of filming. It doesn't really take that long. In this case, this trick he was going for, he actually landed first try once we got to that location. He's like, yeah, I think maybe something like this. And Alex actually was recording on his camera. See if I can pull it up here, actually. Well, actually, I don't want to lose track of this. So first, let me mark this in point, because I know this is where... So what you hear Alex say there kind of in the background is, well, I'm sure Wyatt could hit this first try. And there's a little bit of just backstory, tongue-in-cheek humor there. It's kind of a slight to Edwin. But I think it might be funny because we just had a little like joking bit. And the fact is, Alex is just trying to get under his skin, get in his head, just keep it humorous a little bit, because we've been filming this trick for a little bit. He's like, I bet Wyatt could do it first try, just saying. But the funny thing was, Edwin actually did land this first try, but we just weren't like ready to like record it. Alex was just like sitting there like, okay, what is the trick? Sometimes we like to sit there and see what the trick looks like before we start filming, so we know we don't miss anything. Like, okay, you're going to do a lighthouse flip. Oh, and then you're going to do an insta and then go in. So he did film it. And Edwin did land at first try, but then it took us like this was actually kind of on the longer side. That's why at the end you saw him snap the string, because he was just over this trick by the time he finally did land it, especially because he already landed it. That's the frustrating part for him. So I came across this audio. I thought it might be funny to maybe put this in the background for, just the...
If we were racing right now, he would have won. But I already landed it on first try.
So like even just that little clip right there, and I might see how Alex's camera sounds, because his might sound even better. But I'm gonna drop that in just to save it. In fact, Alex's will sound better for sure. So it was one of these angles. So right here.
Nice. Nice. I like that. Did you get that? I kind of like the further back look. Because you're doing like a hand wrap, right? Okay. All right.
Okay, so I think it was right here. So he says it right there. I just want to watch it with my eyes once. So he's like, I just want to see you do it. Like the camera is recording, but he's not filming the trick, right? So look, he lands it.
I was, but I was trying to watch it.
That's fine. That's funny. I can do it again.
So he got it pretty much right away. He's like, yeah, I can do it again. It's just funny that he landed it. And then, but he wasn't ready. And then it took us, another half hour of filming for him to get it. That's just the nature of reality. So you can see how this looks, and look how weird this looks on my screen. So the reason this is super janky to watch and looks like it's skipping a bunch of frames is because this one was actually filmed at 120 frames per second.
Hold on now.
So he filmed his angle at 120 frames, so super slow-mo. as opposed to what I've been filming at, which was 60, and I think this timeline is 24. So it's there's like some missing frames, missing information. The timing is just off, basically. So it's just gonna look a little weird. But
I missed it.
but yeah. Oh yeah, what I wanted to do was that audio of him saying that Wyatt thing.
It does, it's just not in frame.
And you know, there's also probably some cool little just like
5 years. Trip, tap, jug, trip.
That for the edit. Save that for the edit.
okay, if it's not in here, it's
Anya.
hopefully in here.
You checked your fucking watch. Just mid. Yeah, dude, just.
All right, this has got to be. Bro. Okay, I mean, if I don't find it, it's not the end of the world. So, but I like this idea. I like that. So you kind of hear Edwin say, "I already landed it first try." Like he just, you know, because he's just giving him a hard time here. So maybe I'll add in a little bit of just vocal isolation to get rid of some of that noise. I don't usually like to keep it at 100. I'm gonna cut out my laugh there. See how this. So I like that. So that's really all I meant by like adding some energy. I just wanted to add some kind of depth or interest to this sequence, to this trick here. First try.
Race slicing right now, he would have won. But I already landed it. First try. Okay. Hit him.
So this trick, you can kind of see it's not, I added all those sort of speed ramps to it when it was at a different point in the edit. I've since slid it into this position. So it's not perfectly aligned at this point. But I think for the most part it works. I might go in and tweak a few little things here and there. I don't need it to necessarily perfectly line up with the music, but if there was any cool instances where it did without me really having to try a whole lot, I think that is what I'm going to err towards. So yeah, let's do that real quick. Well, and actually first, just so I can really feel the edit and get into it, what I'm going to do here is actually go to Motion Array, which is my special sauce. And this is where I will download some of those sweet assets for what do you call it? Outside sound effects. Spring rain outdoors. Let me try typing in like summer park or something. I know you won't be able to hear this, but I'll bring this here into DaVinci shortly. I think this is pretty perfect. This might even be a little bit better. Summer Beauty City Park or something is the name of this clip. So it has a little bit of wind noise, which is nice. It has so you can hear like kind of wind through trees. It has a little bit of park, like people chatter, ambience in the background, has some birds chirping in there. I think it's just a really good blend of a lot of different sounds that just help this feel a little bit more alive, the edit, and really just add to the environment that he's in. But let me download this. We'll bring it in and see how it feels. Why can I not find this? Okay, here we go. Okay, save that there. It's downloaded. So now I'm going to come up here. Open my thing here. Flower mod. Okay, so I've got, this pack came with 3 different MP3 files. So let's see what these are. So one is Ambience 1, Ambience 2, and as you'd probably guess, Ambience 3. So let's see how these sound real quick. So that particular one is not the one that I heard. This one does sound like it has maybe some bells in it, either some church bells or maybe like a city town hall clock or something like that chiming in the background, which is not bad. I mean, that is a really pleasant sound. But I think this sound right here is the one that I heard. And so obviously listening to that right away, you kind of think, okay, that sounds like it'd be really distracting, if anything, because like where are these disembodied voices coming from, and why is the wind so loud in my ear? And we'll make adjustments to address all of that, to make it hopefully just blend in really nicely and seamlessly into this edit. So I'm gonna just drag this down here into the audio 4 track. And we'll see just how it sounds with doing nothing other than bringing down the volume a little bit. And I can also do some things with the equalizer to help. For one, I'll just put this low pass filter on it to get rid of all those like lower tones, like the wind noise and stuff like that. And honestly, just those two things alone might be enough. So let's see how this sounds now. And I'll do it like enable, disable, so we can kind of go back and forth and see how this is sounding. Oops. Man, I just chuckle hearing that. It's just one of those things like I hope Edwin or Alex pick up on. I mean, they will, I'm sure. But okay, so yeah, just hearing it. I know it might be a little tough to hear in the stream, but I do think it adds like just a nice little sound bed in the background here. Like if I solo this right now, you know, you can ever so slightly hear it. And if anything, the noise is like a little bit much, and I could enable some isolation maybe, or maybe bringing out the low pass even a little bit more might help. I just want to get rid of that, you know, that kind of constant noise in the background. I just want to negate it a little bit. So let's actually try this. So even that, I think, will do a lot. Because I really do want the birds and the kind of those human voices, like park nature. I do want that to be present somewhat. Okay, so now I'm happy with that. So now I'm going to go back to this and look for, I know I've found like film projector before, and that might be the right one. I do think you can make the argument they're a little bit overused. So yeah, of course you're going to start with all these super modern sounds. So. Oh man, this is just... Projector, Arena Spotlight, old film projector. So... I like this sound. That's really pleasant. I'm gonna... Okay, so that's actually cool. It actually tells me whether or not I've downloaded it. So that's good to know. So I have downloaded this exact song somewhere. I know you can't see it on the stream. So that's cool that Motion Array does it, at least let me know, hey, you do have this song somewhere. But most likely I used it on a different edit for a different client at a different time. So it's buried in a folder somewhere. So rather than going and looking for it, because I'm going to want to copy it to this project file folder anyways, I'm just going to leave it here. So I downloaded that. Let's go ahead and open it real quick and bring it on in to this. And I'm actually going to take this opportunity to create a bin for my sound effects now that I'm starting to get a lot of them in here. Oops. And I'm actually just going to grab all those with Shift, and then I'm just going to drag them into the sound effects bin. Same with these summer sounds, drag them into the sound effects bin. Now everything is at least a little bit, so these are all music tracks. This is the one I'm currently using, and these were some other ones that I thought about using. So let me just actually go ahead, you know, might as well do some housekeeping here. There we go. Now everything's nice and organized, and I could even organize this further, of course, but I think I like that one the best so far. So let me just try bringing this down here and see how this sounds. So I want to kind of get that little click sound right at the beginning of this. What I'm probably going to do is put a cut in that. I'm going to drag it back to here somewhere. And then I want the out click as well, is the reason I'm grabbing this. So I want to try to line that up. Zoom in here. I want to try to line up with that right there. That kind of film click. Let's see how that does. And so I do want some kind of sound effect for those, just these single transitions as well. And I'm dragging this back because I want to have one of these kind of come in somewhere around here as well to kind of help with this transition a little bit. And maybe what I'll do, this is kind of another idea I sort of had. I'll bring down the saturation of this clip. So I already have that radio blur, which, you know, might even be a little bit strong. Maybe I can just bring it down a little bit here, because it's already a little shaky. It's already got this grungy effect over it. And then what I'm going to do as well to help reduce the strength of this thing is select my clip here, and I'm going to just bring down the saturation. So I'm going to come off of noise reduction. I don't need that. And as you can see, I brought up my saturation quite a bit to really fill these out. I'm just gonna dial it back, and if anything, I might even go into the negative just to really. In fact, well, I'm gonna start by putting this back to normal, but then what I think I'm gonna do is try to bleach it out a little bit and sort of lift up these shadows so that, you know, if it has a little bit more of a film sort of look. And then, I mean, I could even add some grain and some other stuff. Like, well, I probably won't do it here. I'll probably do it in the effects thing. But I think even just doing this alone will help it just look a little bit more separate from the rest of the footage. And I know as far as this thing, as far as this audio, what I might do here, audio transitions, so I don't want that. What I want is something that makes it sound like it's shot, kind of an audio distortion thing, like this, distortion. This might not be the best one to use. Lo-fi radio. See how that sounds.
Whatever this band is called, I don't know how, I don't know. Whatever this band is called, I don't know how. I don't know. Whatever this band is called, I don't know how, I don't know.
So I don't know. I'm kind of just experimenting at this point. I like the idea of having just like so I need, I think, a little bit more. I just want to fill this completely. I think I can bring this down a little bit. And let's come back to our effects here. So cut out the highs a little bit more, see if that helps to and I want this to come a little bit more. So now I'm starting to hear the birds, but now I really want it to, I do want to make sure I'm hearing it. So you can kind of get the sense, hopefully at this point, like this is a little bit of a push and the pull, just this whole process of like shaping the sound, really shaping the whole edit. But I like the direction we're going in. So this particular sequence I feel pretty good about. I will, like I said, want to find some transitions, some little so I don't really like where that trick ends. Like if anything, I'd want it to, right when it starts going down, I'd want it to start slowing down or something. I just got to clear some announcements real quick. Okay, so yeah, we're getting somewhere. So I'm going to actually come back to this. What I really want to focus on at this point, because this will be kind of the last thing that needs to be done, is just this last trick. So this is really where like the creative mindset will really, I think, take over. So getting that sound stuff in there, glad I did that. Like I want to have something like that in there. But figuring out how to put this trick in here will be the next thing. So I think just hearing the music, like I think I want the trick to sound. So for this, I don't, so same thing with this angle as before. I have actually two different angles of it. So this was the angle that I was filming, which is more like dead on and very punched in. So you can see I definitely missed a few things, but it's also just a really unique angle looking at it. And look at that. I mean, you're just seeing like how locked in he is. It just helps you feel super locked into the trick. And so I don't really want to do the same thing I did here where I did like a double overlay of the two tricks. What I'd want to do is some kind of like fancy cut in between, if anything at all. I mean, this is something where obviously, you know, most of the time making a kendama edit, you're probably just going to have the one camera angle and you're going to just inject some B-roll and stuff like that. But for this, I feel like, you know, we have the footage. It'd be cool to try to use it. I think this is definitely the main camera angle. And I mean, you can see how good he's doing at these punches here. Like the whole idea of this is to just have a unique sort of like shot or make it, you know, the goal is to kind of make it interesting with this. So here, so the crazy thing about this, that's just crazy. And he actually landed this.
Control, folks. He's out of control.
And honestly, I love kind of how that naturally sort of ends. So maybe we'll try to find, so this is where the tweaking comes in. I'm trying to like picture in my mind how this works. And usually what'll happen is I'll just kind of get it somewhere rough, and then sort of once it's in its rough place, then I'll just tweak and push and pull things as far as speeding up and slowing down to get it to just, and usually it'll just click without me really even trying that hard. That's exactly what happened in these three cases. Like I just kind of put it somewhere and just decided and committed to it. And then I just tweak a couple little things, and sure enough, it just falls into place. So that's what I'm kind of hoping will just happen here. And so here is my angle. And so the first thing I want to do, well, actually a couple things I want to do. So first I'm going to, well, let me make sure this is lined up.
Control, folks. He's out of control.
Holy shit.
So the laugh there at the end, I might want to use that somewhere here at the end, just because it was just crazy. He hit that add-on, so I want to end it on that potentially. I'm gonna unlink these just so the video layer can stay where it is, but I can bring my audio layer down here, and now I can link these together again. And now I have both of these here, and so of course there's no way to align these perfectly. I mean, maybe the audio will sync up. So actually, I guess we could try that because there were some consistencies in voice. But yeah, it's gonna fail. It doesn't always work. So instead, it'll also be kind of easy to do it this way, luckily. So what I'm gonna do here is bring down the opacity of this clip. I have to do it to a point where, and then maybe I'll just move this over so I can see it better. So you can see what I'm trying to do here is just line up the two clips. And they're probably pretty close, but the easiest thing to do is just look for a specific moment. And so what I'm looking for here is this first tap. And you want it to just be kind of close. So right here is on this top clip, which is this clip here, this A angle, is where he first does the swing to tap. And so what I'm going to try to do here is move this clip left and right to find where that first tap is. Which is right. I might have to punch in quite a bit. And I could honestly hit this roll key on the DaVinci keyboard and, oh, actually, is it? Okay, so this is it, except it's not. Okay, so I'm going to go back to where the tap happens, which is right here. And then on this clip, I think it's right there. So let's try this. And honestly, I mean, it's just, you look at that, you're like, dude, that's actually looks kind of sick. I don't really want to do the exact same thing as before. And obviously I need to realign stuff like this and find a way to make it work. I think they are lined up at this point. I mean, it looks close enough for this. So, and honestly, what I was going to say is I like where it ended. Because landing on bird is honestly the... And then it goes into the add-on after that, which is just a whole extra part of the trick he didn't even have to do. So I think we're going to start it with that. And so now what I can do is I want, when he catches bird, which is this spot right here, I want that moment to happen right where that spike in the music comes in. Right there. So, okay, so that said, so what we have is this spot here. Oh yeah, I wanna line up where he catches bird with that spot. So I made these the same length here. I'm gonna do this just so that both clips are the same, so that no matter where I move this clip, I know that to line up the other clip, I just have to move it and line it up at the beginning and end. So I want my time marker to stay right there because that's where this beat happens. And I want to basically just move this until I get right to the point where the bird lands. Right there. So it was about plus 18 milliseconds. And now I know I can adjust this. And this is not connected with this or linked. Let me just do that real quick. Link those. So now let's watch this back. And you can see that. So to bird. I mean, that's really the moment we want people to just be flabbergasted, watching the edit. And so Now you can see I have this big gap back here between when this clip sort of ends. And then I have some B-roll in here. And I have some extra B-roll in here. This is just some other clips that I found where I just put the same effects that I had before on him. Kind of with the similar idea of doing something like what I did right here, just like a little snippet of B-roll kind of trick that Edwin hit that I can just throw in there, just this visual kind of candy to transition between the tricks kind of thing. So I want to do something maybe a little bit different with that, but again, I'll come back to that. What we want right here is to work backwards from this spike. So first thing I'm going to do actually is just come in here and just throw these color grades on here just so it has something on it. I'm just going to assume I can reuse this and it'll look good enough for our purposes. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit dark. The color's going to be a little bit different, but we'll come in and make finer adjustments in a bit. So what I need to do here is figure out the best way to maintain the timing. So what I'm thinking is so those sort of like snare to kick, dun, 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 dun. I think those would be quarter notes in this case. My thinking is I want those sort of like inward to reggae, like lighthouse flips to correspond with those if I can. So this will be maybe a little bit tricky, but and the other thing I'm going to do is just reset this real quick. And he just keeps going.
Control, folks. He's out of control.
And that's where the edit will end right there, and I'll have maybe some credits on the screen. I think this is pretty much, I think it's going to work out perfectly. So here's what we want. I think for right now, I'm going to move these off to the side here, and I'm going to put a cut right here, right where that happens. In both of these clips. So I'm going to hit Command B, and I'm going to drag this back here because I want it to start here, and I want to not adjust. I don't want to move this at all. I don't want to move this end at all, but I want to add enough slow motion at different points in here where it extends this clip, and you'll see how it does it. It's really cool. I want to add it at just the right points where it'll end as close to this point in the song as possible. So start with this A-roll clip. I'm going to bring the opacity back up. And this is where I kind of get to think a little bit creatively. So I'm thinking maybe it'd be cool to like do a quick transition at like a noticeable time. The trouble with transitioning between clips is like, yeah, for one, these are gonna have to be color matched quite a bit, but you want it to not feel like super disorienting. But you want it to feel not disorienting, but I want to be able to use both. So I'm going to start with just editing one clip, and then maybe I'll find like where the second clip could go in. And honestly, it might just be something as simple as having an overlay come on the screen, kind of like you see those pictures, like those old 80s style photos of like the portraits where it's like the main portrait in the middle, and then it's like the disembodied head up in the top corner going like this, you know, like something like that, where like this is the main angle. I think right there is where I want it to start the slow-mo. Just feeling it out. Like I could see this being normal. So like I wish that click lined up a little bit better with the beat. So maybe I'll even come in here. So what I'm gonna do is retime curve. And I don't need to worry about doing both of these clips at this point. I'm just gonna focus on this one. And I might start the slow-mo a little bit sooner just so that that click right there, I can see it in the waveform. It needs to line up with this right there. So what I'm gonna, and those, even these are a little bit misaligned. So what I'm going to do actually is just add a point here. And I am just going to grab this and start slowing it down. And you can see, this is the really cool part. I'm just grabbing this line right here. This one, don't even ask me what the fuck. I'm just grabbing this one, which is the speed over time. And you can see as I pull it down, it automatically stretches out the clip. And it's not stretching it in the sense where it's extending the end. It's stretching the whole length of the clip because we're slowing down the speed in real time, which is super, super convenient. So now, as you can see here, although it's a little bit worrisome because it's not doing the same thing with the audio, which actually, okay, the reason for that is I want this back at 100. Okay. The reason for that is because I need to, I think it's something with this. Maybe I need to disable pitch correction. Or maybe that's not it. My thought was it was supposed to extend the audio as well, because that's the whole point. And I did this before. I'm trying to remember what I did. Normalize audio levels, no. Huh. Damn, that's cool. See, this is where shit just gets real. Change clip duration. Retime controls. I know this is another way of doing it with these retime controls. Retime frame. Oh, okay, so that's how you do it by the frame. This is just speed. Oh, now it's working. Okay. So if I put a point in here, why is it not? Oh, it does. Okay, it's just not updating in real time. Okay. Okay, disaster averted. So, mission is still the same. I want that spike to line up with this, and I don't want this to go below 40. So what I'm going to do here is, because this, I would like to get to this spike, which you see how much farther it has to go. And obviously, the more I try to do this, the more it's going to mess things up. So I'm going to add another point here, and I'm going to try to go to 40 now and see if that gets me there. Oh, I think it will. I think we're good. And actually, what I just realized is with this clip, I can actually go lower than 40 because this was filmed at 120, I believe. Yeah, so this can actually go all the way down to 20% speed because 20% of 120 frames per second is 24. 24 times 5 is 120. Is that right? No. 24 times 10 is 240. Yeah, 24 times 5 is 120. Okay. So yeah, yeah, this could actually go down to 20%. So, but right here, I think it'll work. So let's see this. So it's going to sound disorienting because this clip is still down here. So let me just disable that real quick. Okay, so you can see what we've done so far. So at this point, we've slowed down the entire clip to about 44%, where it could go down to 20. But after everything after this point here is slowed down, and we're still not where we want this to be. We want this to be all the way to here, remember? So that means a couple of things. I could just make this whole clip start sooner, right? So somewhere like around here. So of course I'd have to align these to two different beats in the music, but that shouldn't be too tough to do. The other thing is I could slow different parts of this down even further because I honestly like the idea of trying to get these to line up. So maybe right there. So here's, I'm going to reverse engineer this once again in a slightly different way. I think what I'd rather, not rather, but the other thing I'm going to apply to this is, the other way I guess of framing this is I want to figure out where it makes most sense to slow down and then speed up and slow down again, get that nice and dialed, and then just move this clip accordingly to fit with the beat and line up as close as I can to where I originally wanted that drop to happen. So let me kind of show you what I mean. So I like how this is starting. think right there, I might go back to full speed. So let me just add another point here, bring this back up to full for now, which is 100, which there probably is a quick way of doing this, but let me just do that for now. Let's just see how this looks. Okay, so how many is it total? So the line is 1, 2, juggle, 1, 2, 1, inward, inward, reggae, reggae, inward. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, reggae, 1, 2, 3, inward, then it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and it's 1, 2, 1, 2. And then tap, tap, juggle the bird. So knowing that, thinking about it in terms of what the trick actually is. 2, 3, 1. Okay, so so I'm actually going to bring this back to this point where the last inward happens. Maybe I'll add another one here, bring it back down to whatever. So I like something like that, just like with the 3. I didn't even know there was 3 taps. I thought it was just 2. 1, 2, 3. Oh, okay, I see it now. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I'm going to bring this down to 40 so it looks just a little bit more correct. But this is where I think we'll leave it. Or something like this. I want that to happen. I think like somewhere like that. So that's at 100. So I'm not super concerned with that moment of the music right here. I guess the important thing is just figuring out where it makes sense to slow down again, because I'm going to move this accordingly. So I do want it to happen right on the tap, actually. Okay, I kind of like that. Let me get a feel for this again. know. Okay, I kind of like this. So let me just drag this over and actually just see how this lines up right here. Probably not going to be perfectly aligned with any sort of music right now, but I just want to see generally how this looks here. Okay. Okay, so right there, I want it to slow down. So let me just try moving that first. Try deleting that. And so one thing I could do here is I could make this even lower. I want it to slow down right there, actually. I have an idea. Let me cook. Man, that's so close. Okay, so maybe. Let me watch this back again. It's okay, that needs to be a little slower. So I want this clack here, which I'm just going to bring up this volume so everything is a little easier to see for now. I want it to line up with this, so I'm going to drag this out, out, out. Okay, and honestly, at this point, maybe I'll just grab this and drag it this and this so that they're all aligned back to here. And I'm just going to turn off this again so that there's a nice continuity. And of course this shit happens, even though I don't know how. Don't know how that could be the case, but you know, it is. So I want to try to find that exact frame. Maybe right there. I want to try to, of course, match this now. And actually what I could do, instead of being an idiot, is just extend to this clip that already exists. This makes a lot more sense. So now that I have this point kind of lined up, so of course that's way too loud. You can hear that fucking airplane in the background. Really, I was just trying to have that help lining this up. Actually here, what I might do is go back up to 100. And then right at that one, right here at this bump, now we go all the way down to 20 because we're going to need it to get to the promised land. Maybe right there, go back to 100 now. Yeah, and then extend it. Something like that. Let's see how this looks. He just goes off for the next minute.
He's out of control, folks. He's out of control.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I'm liking where this is. So what we have to acknowledge at this point, so let me collapse that just so everything's a little easier to see. Yeah, where we're at this point, got this looking pretty good. This is the B angle of this same clip, so I know that the beginnings are still aligned, even though I made all those adjustments here. As you can see, I started off with it still at 100%. So up until this point, right here, these two clips, this and this, are actually perfectly aligned still, because I just kept the beginning the exact same point. And then I just moved and shifted it around just to get it to line up with the music and with the drop, essentially. So this little gap right here is basically I just need to fill with some B-roll like this. You know, that's kind of why I had this sitting here, like just in case I need to use it. And there's plenty of B-roll I could find to fill this section here. There's plenty of things I could do before this clip comes in. But I thought this was a pretty decent point in the song to bring this clip in. And what I kind of would like to do is start the slow-mo with the first. because you can see he already does one inward. Right there. So at this point, I don't want things shifting forward. Well, let's just see what happens here. Let me try slowing it down to that point in the clip. Okay, so that's aligned with that. Let's see how this looks. Okay, that's actually pretty close. So I just need to do some finer adjustments here. So I just need that to be lined up with that. So I'm going to put another point here. And I'm going to increase this speed just slightly to bring this back. Oh. See these two? Da, dun, ta, ta. These taps. Dun, ta, ta, tone. Those are almost perfectly lined up. And what am I at here? 37? Yeah, I got plenty of space there. Bring it down, bring it down, bring it down. I want another one here though, and bring that up. Bring it up to speed. Up to speed. Up to speed there. Bit closer. Bit closer. Pa, pa. So that does need to be. Oops. Okay, there we go. Bit faster, bit faster, bit faster, bit faster. There we go. And if this could be right at that mark, what are we at? 26? We are stretching ourselves here, boys. What did I bring it to just now? 23. So right there is where I want. Right there. Okay. Okay, you see all this crazy shit we have going on? But we have, we basically were just able to customize this perfectly to the point where everything should be lined up perfectly. Vivint? I've never even heard of Vivint. All right. Well, that looks fucking dope. Okay, I think this is pretty close. I want that to be a little cleaner. And honestly, I guess it's pretty clean. It just happens it's sort of a weird beat in the song. Okay, so now here's the fun part. As I was kind of working on this, what my sort of thought was for this using this secondary clip is I would at the slow parts or at just certain accent parts of the clip only, I would cut to this and do that sort of overlay effect. So what I'm actually going to end up doing here is putting this on top. And I'm not going to bother extending it or dragging it out at this point. I mean, I guess I might as well, because I do want to cut at the end of it. I'm going to relink these just so that I'm using both. I can always unlink them later. But so there's certain points where I think I want to cut right there. So what I need to do is open the retime curve for both overlay for both of these. I'm going to actually collapse this just so I can see both of them a little bit easier. And I might even bring down my audio because I need less of that at this point. Open the retime curve for this as well. And what I pretty much need to do at this point is just make these match up. So starting off by adding a point, starting at the beginning, adding a point here. And they don't have to be absolutely perfect, but the more perfect they are, the better it'll work. And then I'm going to hover over this to see what it says, 52.54. And I'm going to do the same thing, 52.54 speed. I'm going to bring it down until it says that, 52.54. And hopefully it'll park at just the right point. So it looks like it's stopping at 4.7. So sometimes if you zoom in and out, it'll give you different values. 8.7, 07. Okay, so zooming in might be the secret here. 52.54 is what we want. Zoom in one more time. It's doing it in weird increments. 4.7. And what I'm going to do on this is bring down the opacity so I can see what I'm doing. And what I want to do actually is just zoom hella in, and I want to just do this. I do want to do the same thing, but instead of doing it at weird times, I'm going to do it only at accent moments in the clip. And what I might even do is make this a little bit stronger. something like that. Okay, so I've got that at 52.54. I've got this at 52.54, or close to it. So I want to add another point now here and change the speed again. And I'm going to just do this. Luckily, I won't have to do this for the entire clip. You know, for every single one of these, I'm only going to do it at the points where I want this clip to be on the screen. And so just watching this back, like already I know I don't want it at this first half. I'm just leaving this here for now so I can make sure my alignment is good. And you can see already this is just not I'm not super aligned with this. What I probably should do is stay a little bit more zoomed out. And because oops. Okay, so now we're good here. So you can see it's already a little bit off. So what I want to decide here is how long do I want this second angle on the screen for. So I want it to come in right where that cut happens. Right there, basically. I'm going to cut out right there. So I am going to need to make sure all of these are matched up until this point here. So what does that look like? I'm going to select this again, select the retime speed curve. And so same thing, I'm just going to come here. Retime is 44.94. So I'm going to bring this down to 44.94. Or as close to it as I can possibly get for now. And then I'm going to come here, add another point. This is my reference down here. This is not moving. This is my constant here. So I'm going to add another point. And now I see this speed is 76, a nice even round number. Imagine that. 76, if I do recall. .07 it shall be. And then in this, I can actually make this really easy on myself and just click that arrow, which will take me, snap me next to the next keyframe point. So I can just add another one now on this clip. And I can see this is at 77.2. So I just went up a little bit. 77.27. That's where we're going to be at. And I'm going to this right here. And so now I'm going to, same thing, hit right, go to my next one, add another one. And I can see this is back at 100 now. And I think that's how I ended it. So just set this back to 100.07. So this, you know, it is going to be off by 0.3% here. So this is going to perhaps look a little janky, but let's see overall how we did. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I mean, so let me just real quick try bringing this back to here. And right here is where this is going to come on screen. So I'm going to leave that there for now. So now let's just watch this as if we were actually going to watch it. This is something like how it would look. Okay, so I kind of like that. Huh, okay, so now do I want it to go away or do I want it to stay on? Kind of like that effect too, of like the two different speeds kind of thing. I'm not really sure, like I want to spend the time to like dive in to really do something cool to make it work, because it's one of those things, like it's way easier to make it disorienting and feel overly weird and saturated and just crappy. It's way too easy to do that. I'd much rather just stick with something simple, where they're both nice and aligned. I think this works super well. Honestly, it's a little bit of a bummer that I have this hard edge right here, because unfortunately the way we both framed him, like if I were to reset this framing, 516, I guess in this frame it works. Like at a certain point, he's in too similar of a position, so it just makes it too hard to watch. So I wanted to offset him a little bit, and so maybe I could do this thing where I adjust this frame instead. I don't want to flip it, because it's going to look like he's playing with his opposite hand, which is a no-no in the kendama world. So I can't really flip the frame. Like this is just so easy to watch. Honestly, what I kind of have there sort of works. So let me see. So one thing I can do here is I can increase the softness. I can crop the right and then increase the softness of that crop. I don't want to do a lot, but it can at least mitigate it a little bit. That way, at least I have I don't know, I have something to go off of. Or and maybe, honestly, I just hard commit to keeping him on this side of the frame and just splitting it perfectly down the middle. And maybe I don't even do an overlay at that point. Maybe I just do this. Except now you can't really see him. So now I would need to add another. So this is where it would get a little, a little skirty. So what I would do here actually is add a position keyframe to this clip. So now you can see my crazy fucking keyframes over here. And what I want to do is have it slide over so that by the time we reach, so start sliding at this point so that this never goes out of frame. Because now we have all this room to work with, right? So let's see how that looks. Okay, and then I need it to slide a little more. Maybe add another one here. Maybe something like that. Okay, I'm kind of liking this, honestly. So now it's just a matter of do I want them both on the screen. Like, I kind of like having them both on there. What I was originally going to do is have it cut out. Be like right there. Missed the triple, of course.
He's out of control, folks. He's out of control.
Okay, I'm feeling pretty good. I think we're locking in on it here. So. Yeah, I'm liking this. Oh, shit.
Just enormous, and you can do a lot with them. They're very versatile, and you know, it's just gonna make the image look just ever so slightly better than everyone else's. So there's that. The other thing, of course, huge pro of these cameras is the space where I got the most use out of them by far was filming interviews. That is what these cameras, I feel like, are meant to do. I really can't stress enough how great these cameras perform locked off. Here's some footage of some interviews that I shot with these, and I had a friend who also had one, so I was fortunate enough to be able to do a 2-camera setup with 2 Blackmagic 6K cameras for a lot of these interviews, and I was just so blown away with the image quality. And the best part is you can just plug them into power and forget about them, or bring a V-mount battery and lock it off. And with a V-mount battery filming at 6K, I mean, these will last for hours. So you really don't have to worry about battery life when it's locked off on a tripod. The reason that I'm considering one of these cameras would be for this, actually, for as a studio camera, like just a locked off studio camera that stays here, film all my interviews with it, film all my sit-down videos with it. For the price point, I mean, it just films such great quality, and it has all of the bells and whistles I could need, and I don't have to worry about packing it up, bringing it, short battery life, like all of that goes out the window. Yeah, as an interview camera, I can't say enough good things about this line of cameras. Again, I only have experience using this particular one, but I can only imagine that the same goes for all of the cameras within the pocket cinema camera realm from Blackmagic. The customization, the ease of use, the giant 5-inch touchscreen, I mean, there's just so many good things about it as a stationary camera for getting certain shots that you really can't beat, especially again at the price point. I mean, you're getting so many features and so many shooting capabilities. Like it's just unreal. The other huge pro is this might only apply to a handful of people who are maybe just now starting to get into it. The other huge pro is that it comes with DaVinci Resolve Studio. So you now have the studio version, the pro version of DaVinci Resolve, $300 value that you just get for free when you buy any of their cameras. So if you didn't have that already, that could be a huge perk, a huge plus to be able to use their software with this. Because the other thing is, and this could be a pro and a con, but this is something that I don't hear a lot of people talking enough about. RAW, shooting in RAW. This is something that really depends on what level you're at, I would say. Of course, all the people who are very, very well versed, you know, they're way beyond me skill and experience wise with cameras and video production, filmmaking, whatever. RAW isn't really a big deal. If anything, it's like, okay, yeah, it's pretty much necessary. Like I gotta shoot everything that's client work in RAW. For somebody who's either at a level like I'm at or just starting out, it's one of those things that's like great power, great responsibility, right? Like shooting RAW is a great thing to have to be able to get the most detail out of your shots as possible and to get the most dynamic range and be able to shoot outside and still capture stuff in daylight and shadows and all those things that RAW comes with. But you have to know what you're doing in post-production, or you have to know somebody that does. Otherwise, your images will come out looking like this and just not really be that appealing. It's a lot of responsibility. So, you know, as awesome as a feature as that is, you really have to know what you're doing. Otherwise, the image is not gonna come out looking as good as it possibly could. Once you start shooting in Blackmagic RAW, which is native to DaVinci Resolve, you can actually go in manually after the fact and change your ISO settings. You can change your white balance settings in post. If you accidentally set your camera to daylight, for example, and you're shooting somewhere that's really warm and your color is like way too orange, you can actually go in to the software and just adjust your color balance. And I don't mean adjusting the slider to make it more blue. I mean like actually adjusting the file itself of like what white balance it was shot at. If you're shooting in Blackmagic RAW, it gives you that capability. For future-proofing yourself, maybe that makes a lot of sense, right? You're like, okay, well maybe I don't have the skills to necessarily handle all of this right now, but it's something I could learn, something that I could use to help grow myself. And that's certainly what I did. Like I shot all of those interviews in RAW and I just basically had to dive in and figure it out. Yeah, great power, great responsibility. But that is something to consider with these cameras, is you get a ton of features, but you really have to know what you're doing to be able to make them work for you. The other thing you can say for longevity is just what types of shooting can it do. And the fact is the Blackmagic just has way more options in terms of what it can shoot for the price point. It is probably going to be something that can outlast or just outperform a lot of the Sony cameras at that same price point as far as variety of shooting modes. Another thing I'll point out is I've used an array of Sony FX3s for shooting a live concert that I did. The one thing though that I would slightly give an edge to Blackmagic for is I actually, for that shoot, I had all of the cameras going into transmitters and all of those transmitters going into an ATEM mini switcher board. That was great and it worked well, but Blackmagic I know has a lot of extra built-in features if you use their cameras to do that same thing. A lot of features that I didn't get because I was doing this whole thing with Sony cameras instead of Blackmagic cameras. So if you're confident you can find clients that would be interested in doing multicam productions, I think Blackmagic does have the edge there. They just have a whole array of like integrated systems of things to do multicam type shoots, and you don't even have to buy all of the cameras. I mean, you could just have one and just rent the cameras and the gear you need on an as needed basis. And that might be very specialty, that might not be very common for a lot of people, but if that is something that you might be doing, I would give the edge to Blackmagic in that regard. So now let's get into the FX30 and talk about why I'm leaning a lot more towards this camera for a lot of my different stuff. For one, like we already talked about, the autofocus. I mean, it's just, especially Sony's autofocus, now it's gotten so good, especially when you match it with a good native Sony lens. I mean, it just makes a lot of sense, right? And I already had a few Sony lenses, so getting the FX30 just made a lot of sense. And other than this Blackmagic camera, I'd never had a camera that could shoot 10-bit footage, so I was like, okay, this camera is not going to work out for me for what I need most of the time. So I need something that can still get me a really great looking image, but not break the bank. And that's where the FX30 came in. I would say above all the other things compared to Blackmagic cameras is just the nimbleness of this FX30, of this Sony camera. Like, I cannot stress enough how much value personally I put into ease of use, nimbleness. This has an articulating touchscreen, unlike the Blackmagic cameras, which, you know, the new ones at least tilt out, which is better than nothing, which is another huge downside of this camera, like having to look at it dead on. Kind of a pain. And I would throw a monitor on there sometimes, but that just added to the weight, and I was not about that. So with this camera, not having to add a monitor if I don't want it, because I have a screen that can articulate, not having to worry about autofocus, and not having to worry about battery life either, like all of those things together just made this camera make so much sense for me. The other thing I would say is this camera performs great on a gimbal, and I've actually used this camera on a gimbal with prime cinema lenses, so with an autofocus system. You know, it's small enough, compact enough, I didn't really need to use a second monitor. I could just use the screen and tilt it and adjust it depending on where we were holding it. The other great thing about these cameras is it has live streaming built into it, so somebody else could monitor and actually even control the camera and change the settings from an iPad or from their phone, which was super helpful. But like transmitter receiver combos from Teradek or anything like that, I've never really bothered with that for this camera. The final things I can say as far as advice, at the end of the day, like, you know, it's almost a cliche at this point, but the best camera really is the one that you have and the one that you have access to, and you can really make any camera work in any situation if you are creative enough, or if you're disciplined enough, or if you're talented or willing enough. If there's a will, there's a way, right? So although, you know, some of these things were slight annoyances or slight, you know, setback, there was never a time where like a camera just absolutely could not do the job that I needed it to. And honestly, need is even a strong word. I mean, depending on the client, of course, depending on who you're working with. If you're just starting out, most likely you're not relying on a huge corporate job where there's a ton of crew and a ton of this and a ton of that, where like a gigantic budget where they're absolutely depending on the image looking a very specific way. Most likely you're not working on that when you're starting out anyways, those types of jobs yet. So really any camera you get gonna set you at least above, you know, the person who just has like, say, a Canon Rebel camera or something like that, and it's gonna produce a pretty darn good image quality regardless of the shooting scenario. Either of these cameras are gonna do the job. Here's, I think, the thing that might be the most helpful, and of course there's probably some exceptions to this, but what I would say is just a general rule. If you're gonna film more run and gun stuff, I would lean towards the edge of the Sony line of cameras. And if you're gonna film more sit down stuff like this, like if you're gonna be a YouTube content creator where you're doing a lot of sit down stuff like this, if you're gonna be doing a lot of interviews or locked off sort of shots or shooting, then I would say you could probably get away with the Blackmagic camera. Even if you're not necessarily getting paid for it yet, if you're considering or desiring to do photography as well as video, then I would say it's kind of a no-brainer. You really want to lean towards the hybrid set of mirrorless cameras from Sony. And again, I'm not gonna bring Canon into this. If you know people that use Canon or you've used Canon and you like Canon, there's other videos out there that can help you with that. Specifically, I'm just talking about my experience between using Sony and Blackmagic cameras. If you're wanting to pursue photography though, and you're trying to decide between these two sets of cameras, you pretty much, you're going with a Sony camera, a Sony SLR mirrorless camera. So the only other thing that I would throw out there is that I don't really hear a lot of people saying, but before you make any purchase decisions, try renting the cameras that you're considering. You know, for like only $100 or a couple $100, you could rent these cameras for a few days sometimes, depending on the rental place and depending on the time frame. I know that a lot of these places you can't return or rent things on weekends. So if you rent something on a Friday, you return it on a Monday, they'll only charge you for one day. And also sometimes, I had a friend that did this. If you rent stuff from a rental house, you know, obviously it's going to be something that's technically used. If you rent it for a few days and you decide you want to keep it, sometimes they'll sell it to you at a discount, a significant discount, because for one, it's used. For one, you've already paid a little bit to rent it. And yeah, you can get stuff for a pretty good deal if you just buy it straight from the rental house after you've used it for a little bit. There's nothing wrong with buying something used that way as well. So I think that about does it. I think that wraps up everything I needed to say. Hopefully something I said in there was helpful to some of you guys. So if you have any questions, please comment below. I'd be happy. I'd love to answer anything or talk to you guys about anything more you want to know. But most importantly, I hope you have fun and enjoy the process of whatever you're pursuing, whatever creative endeavors you're a part of. And I'll talk to you next time.
For some reason, it's not letting me change the audio recording level.
The gain was